Especially up at the front, so it looks nice and crowded with lots of solidarity. Okay, so we are back to debating more motions and more proposals. Who's excited for some comradely debate amongst comrades? Awesome. Okay. Who is familiar with this meme? Yes? Okay. Always be comradely. Okay, can I get the next one? Okay, so respect. We all agreed to show our comrades respect, and what that means is that we're using ASL applause, that we're not booing or hissing, and that we're not waving signs so that people can stay focused and don't have lots of distractions. It also means that one of our community agreements is move up, move back, and we will be using progressive stack today. Great.
I know you've all seen normal people. Can you pick one and act like that?
Finally, we know that this is stressful. Democracy is hard. It requires discipline. Please do take care of yourself. We will not have a good debate if we're all like hangry or tired. There is, I think there's a picket line today. Walking and yelling at capitalists is a great way to get out your anxiety. So if you do want to go to that, I would highly encourage you to hand over your voting card to someone who you trust. Is there someone who'd like to motivate that?
Like my dad said, nobody likes a crybaby except their mommies and Democrats.
Seattle DSA, he, him. I'm one of the co-authors of this, and so I'll jump right into it. Basically, Bernie always says, not me, us. So let's show him that the we, the us, demands an anti-empire, anti-war foreign policy, an area where he's been better than everybody else, but could use some improvement, definitely. So imagine an online petition under the DSA logo, which is endorsed by your local anti-war group, your local Palestine Solidarity group, your local Central America human rights group, and collecting hopefully a few 100,000 signatures, right? And this from DSA and non-DSA members.
Hi, I'm Trey from Memphis Mid-South DSA, they, them pronouns, please. I'm sorry. So I rise today to speak in favor of this resolution to strike a blow against the chauvinism that invades our politics. We cannot continue to criticize and engage in imperialism against these countries. We need to respect the sovereignty of Cuba. We need to stand in solidarity with Palestine. We need to recognize that these countries are the people in these countries matter just as much as we do, and we need to free them from Western imperialism. The United States has always been an agent of propping up right-wing dictatorships and engaging in violence against these communities, and it's time to call on a major presidential candidate to take an anti-imperialist stance. Thank you.
They, he, or they pronouns. I'm sorry, and if there is no, well, it looks like there may be further debate, but.
Point of order.
Yep.
I move to consider this resolution by paragraph, so that
Tom from Milwaukee DSA, he or they pronouns.
The request to divide the question into paragraphs is not in order. To motivate.
Wait, point of order. I just want to point out that last debate did not use progressive stack.
Okay, thank you for that. We will try better, more next. Okay, great.
Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay.
Do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Okay. All right, thanks for.
Sorry, I didn't hear you with all the squirrels running around.
I'm from Piedmont NC. My pronouns are he, him.
Can, who's going to speak at some point. Great, thank you. So I do want to note that the past 3 speakers have been men on different resolutions, so let's keep that in mind.
Motion to suspend the rules for an amendment that would make a difference for my campaign seeking endorsement.
About
point of privilege.
Hold on. About Resolution 48, candidate litmus test resolution. If
This is exploitation. It's injustice.
so, what is your point of order? Privilege.
So since we did just take a vote, I would just like to again ask the people who are standing to maybe kneel or sit.
Yep. So, thank you. I would like to note that I would like to note that the past 3 people have been men. So, negotiate again amongst yourselves. Is there a speaker against?
This situation is a disgusting mockery.
The point of privilege before the point of inquiry, so we're going to go first here and then there. Okay.
I just want to say to Madam Chair that 2 comrades, both a person of color and a woman, was talking, and people were having discussion while they were talking. It's completely disrespectful, and a lot of our folks with disabilities have asked multiple times the last 2 days for folks to contain their conversations to ensure that folks are able to accurately get the information from our other comrades to make democracy work here. So please, 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 keep our voices silent so that our comrades can talk and our comrades can understand what we are trying to push forth in this convention.
Great, thank you.
You poor thing. Behind all that hurt is a hurt behind.
For the 4th time. I am still Rachel. I am still she, they. I am still from here. I want to speak as an organizer in the South, where it is very different. We are up against people who are so gerrymandered, who are so disenfranchised that it takes Herculean efforts to win a single election, let alone win the many elections we need to even have a chance of solving our problems here. And when I see that, number 1, are you a Democratic Socialist? What I see is forcing our candidates into a death sentence because we have people who don't understand what socialism is here yet. Now, I understand if you're in Portland, if you're in New York, if you are in a solidly blue area, yes, absolutely demand that they call themselves a Democratic Socialist. But if you are in the South, you owe us better than that. Do not do this to us.
Thank you.
We just have to get in the head of a psycho.
Wanting to speak on this. I am very concerned about the number of people crowding the aisles, both from safety and also from the visibility of some of the comrades who are sitting close to there. If I could ask, after taking progressive stack into consideration, for anybody more than 5 or 6 people in to please take a seat.
Okay. And again, we're going to try and watch for progressive stack so that we can get a mix of folks, including more women, to speak. So take you over here, but keep that in mind.
I'm just saying, I think you complain too much.
Leads New York City, he, him. So I'm a professor of Soviet history. I wake up in the morning into a pile of books. I read Marx for a living and teach it. You might expect that I have some opinions about socialism and about political education. And I do, and yet I'm speaking against this resolution. There's about 1,100 other socialists in this room. I imagine some of you might have opinions about socialism.
Hi, ARE she, they, New York City. Just to kind of respond to the comrade who just spoke, it seems to me that assumes that the implementation of this would be poorly implemented, that whoever would do it for nefarious reasons. And I'm speaking for this amendment because the vast majority of us in this room were raised under capitalism and conditioned under that, and we need to unlearn that. And I'm still unlearning things. The first time someone said to me, abolish private property, I said, you're an idiot. And I was already
You never worked a day in your life.
And then I read about it, and then I read Marx, and I thought about it some more, and I was like, yes, we need to abolish private property. But raising class consciousness is a process. It involves organizing, but it also involves education, and it has to be intentional education because we do need to unlearn capitalism. And then I also want to, I wish I had made an amendment, but I just also want to implore that political education also includes reading authors of color, reading Black people, reading women, and not having a night school that is if you have a night school that's a year long, you shouldn't have one day dedicated to feminism. You should have every day dedicated to feminism. And you shouldn't have one day dedicated to the civil rights movement and Black people. Every day should be dedicated to that, because that's what it means to create a multi-tendency, multiracial feminist organization. So I really encourage you all to vote for this resolution so that we can.
Jen, she, her, New York City. So I'm incredibly disappointed that the amendment failed because I agree that we desperately need to facilitate the political development of our members. And so I'm part of the New York City Soc Fem working group. We have one of the best political education programs in the city, I must say. And this
Point of privilege once again. Hi, James Jackson, Sacramento DSA, he, him. I have already asked people to be mindful of the chatter of their comrades who are sensitive to sensory overload, and that goes double for the heckling and the hissing. It is also triggering to my anxiety. Like, the be comradely isn't just for, like, you know, let's keep things civil or whatever. It's so that people aren't gonna get triggered and so that it doesn't affect their performance as a delegate, okay? Your need to express yourself is important, but your need to express yourself should not trump or it doesn't matter. Your need to express yourself is not more important than other delegates' ability to perform. Thank you.
One. And his moods do not swing. He's only got the one. Pissed.
Motion to reconsider Resolution 53, pro-criminalization of sex work, that was adopted in the consent agenda. Is there a second for the motion? Please, again, no hissing. This is comradely debate.
My name is JJ, pronouns she, her, out of DS Honolulu, and I'm going to share a statement based off of my experience in the sex trade. I remember when I first considered sex work. A lot of the white girls I knew had sugar daddies, and me, not being fully aware to how to navigate this world as a Black feminized body, thought that I could be like them. I remember hearing all the dates they went on and the expensive things their daddies bought them. I remember deciding to give it a shot because I was pretty and young and could use the extra cash. I met with an older straight white man, the demographic of sugar daddies in Dallas, through a supposedly secure site with verified members. Super safe, right? We went on a few dates and he paid for dinners and shows. I remember feeling safe enough to go back to his place. I remember stripping and preparing to sell my body to him, then realizing that I didn't actually want to do this. I remember the moment he slapped me so hard that my face burned and my eyes filled with tears. I was extremely caught off guard. I remember him choking me, and as he asked me if I wanted to play slave to his slave master.
The only talent you have is being delusional.
The comrade who made that motion vote yes on the consent agenda?
My understanding is yes.
Okay. Debatable?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'd like to speak against this.
Okay, and so to be clear, you would be speaking against the motion to reconsider. Go ahead.
Yep, that's correct. Everything was on the consent agenda because it was overwhelmingly popular. We're crunched for time. All of these motions are overwhelmingly popular, or all the resolutions are, and we shouldn't revisit them. Thanks.
Okay. We've now had a speaker for and a speaker against. Is there another
Point of
speaker?
information.
Hold on, please don't interrupt me.
Sorry about that.
Is there a point of information?
I believe that we voted yesterday to suspend the rules to adopt the consent agenda in full and not allow things to be taken off the consent agenda. Isn't that what we voted on yesterday?
Once we suspended the rules only for time certain to make that decision. Afterwards, the rules go back into effect.
Marina, after she, her pronouns. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the manner in which we're proceeding here because we just had a comrade come and share trauma and violence with us, and I think that, that's really triggering for a lot of folks. And
I'm sorry that I'm actually in control of my goddamn emotions, you baby!
I would ask the same.
Hi, my name is Erica. I use they, them pronouns. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska.
My name is Christian Hernandez. I'm an NPC candidate from DSA North Texas.
I come into DSA as an immigrant rights organizer, so I was able to bring that experience and that training to my chapter specifically. So I've not only benefited from these national trainings, but I've helped develop these and think it's important we have trainings that aren't just white men. Like it may be in chapters that may be less geographically.
I do not believe that someone identifying as a man should be the one to call the question, since this is work that primarily affects female identifying, non-men folks. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I totally respect the courage the comrade had when they spoke about the trauma. I would like to ask people to please use trigger warnings.
Thank you. I would ask the same.
Mean person!
Pronouns, I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska.
My name is Christian Hernandez. I'm an NPC candidate from DSA North Texas.
Cassandra, she, her from Metro DC. People are really crowding the aisles. It'd be really nice if we could limit it to like 6 people for and 6 people against, actually standing up so that we can actually see what's going on in the room.
Thank you, comrade.
Doug made the choice to be a princess today, and we validate that choice.
My pronouns are they, them, and I'm part of the San Diego chapter.
Comrade?
Point of privilege. The safety considerations that were mentioned earlier by the comrade of having the aisles filled with people be respected. Crouching down does nothing to alleviate those safety considerations. So let's please respect, the issues that were raised earlier.
What's up, y'all? Curtis with Miami DSA, he, him, his.
They, them, theirs, Metro DC. Can we please use comrade as an honorific and not sir or ma'am to some
Absolutely, I apologize. Thank you.
He needs professional supervision.
Everyone, Mikiko James from Los Angeles, she, her pronouns. As a member of the NPC slate with Socialist Majority, I believe in the critical work that centers socialist feminism and Afro-socialism and racial equity. And the training programs thus far have really centered this work in a critical way for me and my personal political development. And so I strongly encourage everyone to help us continue this really important nationally based work that brings us together in unity and helps us understand how we are going to carry DSA forward for the rest of the win. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Bianca Cunningham, NYCDSA, Afro-Socialist Caucus, she, they, pronoun. NYCDSA, Afro-Socialist Caucus, she, they, pronouns. I'm speaking as somebody who has been a part of the training and development team since the revitalization of DSA. 130 socialists of color and Black socialists from around the country came together in New Orleans as a result of this training program that we're trying to just keep intact. It was incredibly effective. It was incredibly productive that weekend. And I don't trust that these types of things are a priority when I look at resolutions like what the gentleman was just talking about.
One is before, could we please keep the number of people at the mics to 6 to keep the aisles clear? Thank you.
Okay, Comrade, I'm going to refer to you as Comrade calls the question.
Fantastic. Can I call the question?
Yes, you may, sir. Excuse me, Comrade.
Okay, can I go?
Yes, you may.
Hi, comrades. Nat Steele, she, her, or they, them, from Metro DC, DSA, and I'm a member of the Collective Power Network. What's up, y'all? I want to talk a little.
Pronouns, co-chair of New Orleans DSA. In more than 6 people in this aisle, if you would like to hash out with the marshal about progressive stack, that's fine, but I'd like to clear the aisle. Come to the mic, please.
Yeah, sorry. I want to make a point of personal privilege when it comes to removing people from the line, because if we're doing progressive stack, that means seeing everybody who wants to speak and making that decision based on who's in line. When I was in line a few minutes ago, the front of the line was very white heavy, and then there was an attempt to make 2 women of color leave the line because they were after number 6, and that's not what we want to see.
If you are from a class or an identity that should be prioritized within progressive stack and you are coming up to the aisle and there are more than 6 people, please come directly to the marshal and they will help you hash it out. Thank you. Speaker.
Grand Rapids DSA, they, them pronouns. My point of privilege is that I do not think that it is right that in the interest of progressive slack, that if you are a minority or any other oppressed population, that you should have to advocate with the marshal, because that puts the weight of self-advocacy on that individual, whereas we should not give them extra work for being an oppressed group, and the marshal should work to identify and
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
My intent by directing them to the marshal is so that the marshal can rearrange the line for them,
Yes,
so
I
that
agree
they
with that
do
part.
not have to do that themselves and be confrontational in that way, or be disclosing identities to everybody in the line. So the intent is for the marshal to take on that work.
Okay.
This, my friends, is socialism.
Against. Now a speaker for the motion.
I wanted to respond directly to that point that was just made.
No, I mean, we have a stack. I'm sorry.
Hi, this is Katie, she, her, Metro Atlanta. I heard some discussion about what's the concrete kind of strategy? What is this presenting? And I just want to clarify, is this a strategy that is being presented, or is this about a creation of a committee that will create that strategy?
The resolution, I feel comfortable saying that, as far as I understand, this resolution would create the committees and the bodies that would develop strategies. So, all those in favor of adopting Resolution 2, creating the DSA National Growth and Development Committee, please raise your placards. All those opposed? The motion carries.
The woman actively holding a baby move a little closer to the front of the line?
Yes.
Thank you.
Bria, Boston, she, her. My comrade from Chicago earlier has addressed how supporting the struggles of care workers is a critical expression of our values as socialists. I, as a mom, want to speak to why we must prioritize child watch within our chapters to support parents and help raise the next generation of Democratic Socialists.
Thank you.
I weep for this country.
They, them, Memphis DSA. I would like to move that we call the question so that we do not have to force these women and, well, people with children to defend their existence within our organization.
Hi, everyone. My name's Emma Cattern, she, her. I'm from New York City, DSA. I'm transgender. I grew up in a small town in Virginia called Poquoson. It's about like 10,000 people. There's an active KKK chapter in the hometown when I was growing up. They did marches regularly. And I'm a survivor of fascist violence, so I take this very seriously.
Hello, Source, she, her, DSA North Bay. Far-right violence is undeniable, and I apologize if I get a bit emotional. We just saw this week in California at the Gilroy Garlic Festival. Marginalized people experience the brunt of violence that seeks to undo their very existence. Anti-fascist tactics have been proven to disrupt and stop fascism. It is our responsibility as a socialist organization to fight to keep systemically oppressed people safe.
Point of inquiry.
Sure.
Alec Eskelson, he, him, Kansas City DSA. Our delegation has a question for the authors of the resolution. We would like to know, if someone could speak to it, how the resolution could protect the identities of the people who would be on the working group that's proposed to be built.
So I refer that question to the author who motivated, if they'd like to take it up.
So we are obviously, we have not made this working group. We are still in the process of working on it. But we can do a lot of things to ensure the security of the people involved in this working group. We can do things like, using encrypted communications, not sharing lists of members, just really basic security practices that, like, DSA frankly has not been very good at in the past. But
Zoo from Honolulu DSA, Democratic Socialist of Honolulu, he, him pronouns. I urge delegates to vote no on resolution number 9. When I first read this resolution, I immediately felt unsafe and I had chills. I've had experience coordinating organizing within affinity networks against Proud Boys and fascist hangers-on in Hawaii that were targeting people of color, but all this was done outside of DSA and with people that I deeply trusted. Anti-fascism is good, but needs to be strategic. Creating this working group with public members at the national level is unwise because it makes all of us targets, particularly people of color. This resolution undermines our efforts for serious security culture, so I urge you to—
You're at the points, Mike.
Hi, my name is Alex, he, him, Los Angeles. I want to offer a amendment as the—
Hold on a second.
Suspend the rules, yeah.
Okay. So you'd like to suspend the rules to amend?
Yes.
Okay.
As the grandchild of Holocaust survivors, and my grandfather was a socialist organizer in the 30s, while I respect the fact that this proposal introduces marginalized communities, I feel like due to the nature of anti-Jewish attacks over the last couple of years, targeting especially leftist Jews.
Sir,
point of order.
My apologies, comrade. So this is not debatable at this point in time. We need to just get your motion on the floor.
To amend.
So you've made a motion to amend. Do I need the specific
Point of order.
Hold on a moment. Let me speak with the parliamentarian. Thank you.
Yeah, a brief statement of what it is.
Okay. So I need a very brief statement of what the content of the amendment would be.
To introduce Jewish and Jewish identifying or historically Jewish members to the list of specific targets of right-wing violence and fascism.
Hold on a second. Can you say it one more time and as slowly as you can? I need to write it down.
Can you scroll down to the part where it focuses on LGBT section, if you can help with that?
Lawrence, could you scroll down to the list of identities in the resolution?
Yeah, people of color and LGBT color people.
Okay, so
yeah.
As far as I understand it, your motion is very much out of order because it's you are proposing an amendment to the whereas language of the resolution, which is not operative in any way and will not be published after the convention. So it would—
Really starting to think there's a double standard here.
They're manifestations of the same work. As we enter the election season, you'll hear people saying every Trump rally is a fascist rally, and they're right. And it's not just that. Whether you're campaigning for Bernie or your city council, you may well be campaigning against a candidate with explicit ties to violent far-right groups.
This is imagination land.
My name is Joe. I use they, them pronouns, and I am from the Louisville chapter of DSA. I wish to give a brief trigger warning before I start. I'm going to mention some fascist violence that happened in my city. So, Louisville DSA, as some of you may know, was attacked by Proud Boys at one of our events. They pepper sprayed us. And I also want to specify that in light of that, like, I'm a trans person, I'm a non-binary person, I'm someone who's very much at risk of fascist violence. I am a staunch anti-fascist, and I am not here to speak against anti-fascism, but what I'm here to speak against is this specific resolution, because I believe it endangers DSA as a whole. I believe that making a national anti-fascist working group within DSA, putting the words anti-fascist in it at a time when the President of the United States is trying to label anti-fascists as terrorists would put a gigantic target on all of us in the organization, not just those of us, not just those in the working group.
NPC candidate from Richmond, Virginia, DSA. I just wanted to fill you all in on a little bit of the background that the members of the Virginia delegation debated on when we were discussing this resolution, since anti-fascist work is really important to us. The conclusion that we reached is that when members of Congress threaten to label Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, now is not the time to hide from that label. A failure to understand the importance of anti-fascist organizing is the type of attitude that has gotten DSA laughed out of leftist organizing circles in places like Virginia and elsewhere. I have seen too many good comrades leave this organization because of the culture in this organization regarding anti-fascist work. If people think hiding from that phrase will protect us from the far right or will protect us from Congress, you are wrong. They will continue to come after us regardless of the outcome of this vote. We isolate the other comrades doing this work when we hide from this, because this threat is real. We cannot be alienating comrades who organize in challenging territory. And we need to think about a lot of the folks talking about this resolution. Comrades in the—
No Trump, no wall.
The trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
If, then, if, then.
Brandon Ray Ramirez, he, him, DSA Los Angeles. I am in the Immigration and Justice Committee. We have members of our group who are undocumented. We have many of our members who are from a community that is frequently targeted, and we do not want this to be an unsafe space. We actively try and make sure that this is a safe space. We actively are recruiting members who are Black and Latino. We want to make sure that our group is as diverse as possible, and when we try and engage in this work, that is going to harm that. So I say we have got to vote against this resolution. It will make our work on the ground more unsafe and is not the right direction for DSA.
Dude, these people are insane.
I'm from Pittsburgh, DSA. I authored this resolution along with my comrades because we are a powerful national organization with resources that we can marshal to make our organization accessible to all. If we are going to be a mass working class organization, we must be an organization that is welcoming and accessible to people with disabilities, to comrades who don't speak English, to people who have kids. Doing things like this, being an accessible organization to people who are, require some accommodation to exist in our spaces, to organize in our spaces, requires some effort and work and resources from us. But I urge you, do not call the question, please, before you get a chance to hear from comrades with disabilities in this organization who we are hurting every time we are having an inaccessible meeting. If you think that comrades are speaking out of this meeting because that this meeting is bad, it's actually that they are organizing at this meeting and they're not talking at other meetings. So I urge you to be very discretionary before calling the question on folks who want to speak out.
I joined a club I thought was cool, but it turns out all the leaky-weekies are totally lame.
Bob, he, him, North Jersey. I'm not sure what kind of point this is, but I do want to reiterate. I want to use every second possible, but I have no idea what we're voting on without it being on the screen. And while we're trying to maximize every individual second of this thing, we should not be talking at all unless we know what we're talking about, which I certainly do not. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Blanca Esteves. I'm from Northwest Arkansas, and I'm also running to be on your MPC. Hi, comrades. I'm profoundly in support of the spirit of this resolution. As a person with an invisible disability, I strongly advocate that accessibility is key to our struggle as socialists.
I know that it's been a lively morning. It has also been a traumatic morning for some people as a result.
I'm already starting to forget. What are we talking about?
That it's been a lively morning. It has also been a traumatic morning for some people as a result of the discussions, particularly around issues of sex work, but a bunch of other issues as well. For folks who need to have a space to process through conversation what they experienced this morning, the staff has provided one at Ainsley 1, and you can go there. Additionally, there are quiet spaces at Piedmont 7 and 8. Those would not be conversation spaces, but they are those that are accessible to just process on your own. And finally, we have had requests, and I would ask people to respect these, particularly on motions in which traumatization is likely.
Hi y'all, I'm Mikey Inouye. I use he, him pronouns. I'm with the Democratic Socialist of Honolulu. We struck the A from my name because we're an illegally occupied sovereign nation. And so are y'all, just saying. We've been, our chapter has been doing a lot of organizing around Mauna Kea. I just came from there after living there for about 3 weeks. It does have the Union Jack on it. There's a compelling historical reason for why that is. I won't get into it now, but it was kind of gratitude for the UK, restoring sovereignty after, taking it.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Wow, so good, guys.
This is crazy!
questions about the marshals who are helping to sort of convene the progressive stack. Just so everybody is clear, the marshals at all of the mics are actually not delegates. There's been a concern that they may be politically motivated. None of them are delegates, so just putting that out there. They're not stumping for specific resolutions. They're doing the Lord Marx's work. I have learned that there has been so each mic now has 2 marshals. The second marshal is to settle disputes. If there are disagreements in the stack about who should go first, again, there will be a second marshal there to make sure that it's an impartial decision. The marshals are very aware that some identities are invisible, so as much as possible, they are proactively coming up to folks who are in the stack and just trying to get a sense of who they are and where they should be. And then just again, I want to reiterate what progressive stack is for the intents and purposes of this convention. Progressive stack is meant to ensure that people from, historically oppressed and marginalized identities who often don't get heard from enough, not just at this convention, but also in broader society, have a fair chance to speak. But before I do, can you all just give them a huge round of ASL applause? They are amazing. They're so amazing. They were working through lunch to come up with a plan to keep us all safe, and I'm just so appreciative of them, and I hope you are too.
Again, I want to take a second to speak to the marginalized people in this room. As socialists, we should be practicing harm reduction in everything that we do, and we have not done a great job of doing that this weekend. I want to take a second to honor you and the heartbreaking work that this is taking from every marginalized person in this room. It has been hard. I spent my lunch break working with the marshals to organize some space for us to center, ground, and process the harm that has been done this weekend. Whether it's accidental or not, we need some space and time to do that. I want to invite the marginalized people in this room to meet me after we adjourn at 5 in Augusta E. It's on this floor, just directly across the hall. So we can spend some time in community just processing so that we can go out and continue to organize with each other. Thank you so much for your time.
It was exhausting.
Wisconsin. Thanks everyone for helping with the spirit of progressive stack and making sure that we're keeping each other accountable in this process.
Point of information or clarity, are there marginalized marshals, or are they all, I guess I want to know how many marginalized folks are represented by a marshal?
I don't know that I'm necessarily comfortable answering that question, especially since many identities are invisible.
Right, I understand. My main concern is not being represented and having.
My name is Jason, and I'm one of the authors of the resolution, and I request that the resolution be read again and that debate start over.
Okay. So just to clarify this point and why this is happening is because this was announced, and it was announced that we were going to lunch, and a lot of disabled folks left the room, including one of the authors was not even present for the debate. That's why this is being requested. So happy to do this again, I guess. My name is Matt Rubin. I'm from Pittsburgh, DSA. My pronouns are he, him. We put together resolution to support the locals and make DSA accessible to all because if we're going to be a working class organization, we must be an organization which is actually accessible to the working class. The working class is disabled. The working class doesn't all speak English. The working class has kids. The working class makes up a lot of folks who might need some accommodation, some resources, some work from able-bodied comrades, from folks who might not need work to be present in spaces. We got to do some work to make this space accessible to folks. But we can figure this out. We can empower disabled comrades with an accessibility task force to make recommendations, to have 5% of the budget at their discretion. And if you think that's expensive, I want to be clear that, do you think at least 5% of our members are disabled? Do you think at least 5% of our members will be disabled if we make this organization accessible?
Hi, my name is Kate Wagner, and I am a delegate from Baltimore DSA. My pronouns are she, her. Please forgive my shaking.
I came before you, the chair, today as a person on the autism spectrum, and I would like to take issue first with comrades speaking on my behalf as if all people with disabilities, both visible and invisible, have easily definable and checklistable needs. As someone who is involved also in the architectural profession, I first want to challenge the resolution's use of ADA compliance as a standard. Those of us with disabilities in architecture have long held issues with ADA as a standard that restricts the concept of accessibility to mostly, if not exclusively, include mobility issues only. ADA does nothing to help people with disabilities like mine. Accessibility is not a checklist that can be easily standardized across chapters. It is specific to the needs of the individual, and accommodating those needs requires trust, acceptance, and good faith in our comrades to help us be the best DSAers we can be. This resolution creates a body that has access to unlimited funds that everyday members, including us with disabilities, cannot hold accountable, and that will make decisions on our behalf and the behalf of our comrades who work at the local level to accommodate us. The task force may have gender and racial quotas, which are important, but there's nothing in the resolution about disability that covers the wide range of diversity amongst those with disabilities. Those with autism like me and those with limited mobility like members of my chapter have vastly different needs. I urge my comrades to vote no on this amendment and to listen to disabled comrades in all of their wonderful diversity, tell their own stories and speak to their own needs, rather than have a shadowy body with an unlimited budget and no means of recall to speak for us. I ask to remember, nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Tennessee DSA, I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. I'm also on the autism spectrum, and I also have some limited physical mobility. Last night, the Disability Working Group met. About 40 people got together to discuss our realities within DSA, and often those realities are that we are not accommodated for, we are not included, we are not thought of. And even when we are—
Look at this. There have been a lot of things that have been done in the name of accessibility, but I don't know what's been accomplished. I came into this convention and I was asked to do a few things to help, and what should have been a quick 30 to 45 minute run through turned out to be a 2-hour run through. I checked elevators. Some of the elevators weren't working. People were put on upper floors, and floors, you know, up there, they're being disenfranchised while they're being, but I don't think anything's really being done that's accomplishing anything just in terms of this convention. I can tell you that
information in the back.
Adam, he, his, Columbus. So this resolution includes a link in the text. This resolution includes a link in the text. Should we assume we are voting to adopt all of the language at that link in addition to the text of the resolution itself?
What's on the floor is the resolution itself that's linked here.
I would say that yes, you should. My understanding, based off of conversations I've had with the authors and the text of the resolution, is that yes, by adopting this resolution, you're adopting the full policy that is linked in the resolution.
Okay. Thank you, Natalie.
What? Of course not. Don't make me laugh, you silly goose.
Marie, Metro DC, they, them, theirs. I have 2 invisible disabilities, and I am normally not someone who needs accessibility, but from listening to what was going on in the Disability Working Group meeting last night, oh, that got my pumped up and just anyway, this is where I want to speak on this is we do not need to, or we cannot keep what do we need to do to make this accessible? How do we make it accessible? No, it's bake it in from the get-go. Get it on the ground floor. This is make it accessible from the ground floor, not we've got this going on. What do we do to make it more accessible? Thank you.
Do we have a speaker?
This document that was linked out to, is anybody able to edit it, or is it by national? Okay, thank you.
The document is something that I believe was submitted by the authors of the resolution, and not editable per se. Is that?
No, I think that it would be in order to treat this, for example, if somebody wanted to edit the policy document that's linked, the same rules for floor amendments would stand.
Speaker against.
Brendan Davison, he, him, Kansas City. Comrades, like many of the other speakers, I too suffer from invisible disabilities. I suffer both from autism spectrum disorder and ADHD, and it is incredibly nerve-wracking for me to come up here and admit that. I'm thankful that we are at least able to have this conversation, but I rise in negation to this resolution because it simply does not address the question. Throwing money at this problem will not make DSA accessible. The answer lies in having real conversations about how we make it inviting, how we make it open and safe for people like me who have ADHD, who have autism, who have other invisible disabilities as well as physical disabilities to discuss their problems and understand how we achieve disability liberation.
Charlotte, she, her from Nassau DSA, Nassau County, Long Island. I am on the autistic spectrum. I have depression and anxiety, and a lot of points are being made against is that it's a waste of money. Someone's actually crying because they feel that someone is actually crying to me because they feel that the against them is a waste, and it's not. And the money is not the whole issue. It's not the whole solution. And we're not trying to shame you into voting for it. It's just asking you as comrades just to open for all of us. That's all. And it's really not a big deal. So it's really easy just to vote for it, in my opinion. I yield my time.
Sorry, I was actually in line for a point of information.
Go ahead.
Based on, I'm sort of confused by the comments earlier around the link that was provided in the compendium. From my understanding, if it's just a link that redirects to a Google Doc, that could be edited after the deadline. I'm not certain if this was the actual text of the resolution or if this was submitted or edited in a Google Doc post-deadline. I'd like to ask the Resolutions Committee, did you receive this plan or this text submitted or...
Couple of explanations. We had a rule, or shall I say, we had a guideline for our resolutions that they should not exceed about 1 page. This is a guideline to try and make it easier to debate resolutions on the floor, because then you can project them in full and people actually understand what they are voting on. The authors felt that this resolution needed a longer policy document that was not possible to get condensed within 1 page. So as it stands, what this resolution says is that the convention, if passing this, would adopt the longer policy document.
So, Speaker.
This is insane. If I go by these rules, I'll be going against everything I believe in.
I just want to remind people to watch their tone of voice while discussing this very heated topic. I noticed that some of the individuals from the disability working group were looking incredibly stressed out and possibly on the verge of tears. And I know that people feel very strongly about this, but keep in mind, focus on the content of what you're saying and watch the tone that you say it with.
Hello, Asperger's syndrome, but I'm very high functioning, and also what's the other one? I guess anxiety and depression, and it's very difficult to be in DSA. And DSA should support our oppressed people, and seeing as our people with disabilities are some of the most oppressed people in the entire world, we should fight for people with disabilities and our comrades with disabilities and our oppressed people. So you should support this amendment to make it easier for us to fight for DSA and medical for all and all these things and abolish capitalism. Thank you.
Okay, there was an amendment before. I'm not trying to make everybody mad here.
The amendment with the motion to suspend.
I haven't even finished talking. That's okay. That's just another example of what I'm talking about here, but that's all right.
No.
I don't I don't know if the amendment that came up before, it wasn't, there's a reason for this, I'm saying this. So the amendment that wasn't on the screen, I don't know his amendment, I have somebody coming.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but there was a motion to suspend the rules to allow for an amendment. That motion failed, so there's no amendment on the floor. What's on the floor is the call for the question on Resolution 83. Okay. The resolution is as it's written.
I understand, okay. So I will yield, I apologize to the body.
Thank you.
Can you?
Point of personal privilege?
Or on point.
So my point of personal privilege as an ally of the Disabilities Working Group and of Resolution 83 is that because of my ability to walk, speak, sit, listen, see, and tolerate a fairly high level of discomfort and disgust, I've been able to get to this microphone, understand what is being said, even come up with answers to the complex questions that were asked by people who are opponents of this resolution, and even think of certain responses that could be made to those questions. No one...
It's fine.
So I just want to call attention to the way in which we may be reproducing the problem that this resolution seeks to overcome, and to also acknowledge the fact that, like so much else that we do for people with disabilities and that people with disabilities do for themselves, let's be honest with ourselves. Do we really think MPC was going to give $400,000 to a new committee?
Continuing debate.
I say that in good faith. I say...
I know. I acknowledge that you are probably speaking in good faith. This was an incredibly contentious debate. If we can assume good intent from each other, we are trying to build a better world together. Let's, if I could have a moment where everyone just let's take a deep breath in and out before we move on. So, and out. Okay, we will get through this. Yes, go ahead.
Safety kiss. I think I'll be okay.
I helped co-author the 2017 BDS resolution. I am an unapologetic Arab, and I stand proudly with all my brothers and sisters here and around the world that have had to bear the brunt of empire. Puerto Rico is experiencing a coup attempt by the Colonial Control Board against the democratic interests of the people of Puerto Rico. Hawaii, which is also covered by Resolution 50, is demonstrating indigenous resistance to protect Mauna Kea. Palestinians continue to be occupied, expelled, and killed by the Israeli occupying forces. We've already endorsed BDS, and those of us who authored that resolution just want an official national network of Cuba. From Puerto Rico to Palestine, freedom is the bottom line.
Point of parliamentary inquiry is that anyone can make a parliamentary motion from the floor. It needs to be recognized by the chair, and then they can step up to the mic and make their motion. So.
Point of personal privilege. My name is Kate Wagner, she, her, of Baltimore. I noticed earlier, speaking back on disability, people passing out signs. I ask that you not wave signs or do thumbs up or hiss or boo. This is very distracting to those of us with sensory disabilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please.
Toughen up, Ginger. Come on.
He, him. I'm sure this is all in good faith, but I just need to say this is very confusing. I think we should take a 5-minute formal break to review the resolutions and to progressive stack line speakers up in an appropriate way rather than rushing through. There's nothing to stop someone from calling the question as soon as I'm done speaking. If that were to occur, I have no idea what's going on. And if there's other people who agree with that, I hope we can just take an informal 5-minute break to address this from the floor formally. Thank you.
Pronouns.
My name is Kenny Luisa. I'm female pronouns, and I'm with Portland DSA. So reiterate, the International Committee is closed. You have to apply to get in. I understand that the contention is that, we did a straw poll and we prioritized the agenda, but we also have to keep into consideration the fact that mostly white dudes, this organization is mostly white dudes. And I feel like if we had a more diverse national organization, these things would have been prioritized. Of the 70-some resolutions, there were maybe 3 international ones. I myself, I'm an immigrant. I was born in Chile. And so, I urge the body not to recreate these problems that we've had chronically as a socialist movement, which is
which is basically moving in a way that's very nationalist. We really need to move to being an international organization in solidarity with oppressed nationalities around the world, and specifically socialist movements. Thank you.
Okay. Point of privilege.
Yes.
This is Madison, she, her from Harrisburg. I just wanted to remind people that, like I know during the last one we voted not to take that extra 5 minutes, but I just wanted to remind people that some people have issues processing things, and it would be we are just perpetuating ableism by not allowing people the time to look at to consider resolutions that previously weren't on the agenda, and then were.
You know what? You sound like babies.
Chris R., Wichita DSA. Motion to reconsider the STV versus border vote. I voted for that measure.
It would take 2/3.
Got it. Okay. So I've consulted with the parliamentarian to consider your motion to reconsider requires a simple majority, so 50% plus 1. To change it back requires 2/3.
Sorry, Chris, he, him, Cleveland. Since this was not on our agreed upon agenda, don't we need to suspend the rules to add this to the agenda to reconsider, which would require a 2/3?
So I think you can reconsider items. It's procedural, and it was on the agenda, so we're just taking it back on the agenda. It's not breaking the agenda. Sounds good.
Something I can do. Ready? Circle, circle, dot, dot. Now you have a cootie shot.
Make a point of personal privilege. I would like to request people speaking over here to respect the fact that this is actually the disabled people's seating area. When people in support of this resolution were over here, it caused myself and a couple other disabled comrades a great deal of anxiety. I felt like I was kind of in a mob. I'm very glad that you're passionate about this resolution. That's great. I've actually been seizing through this portion of the debate. I'm having a seizure right now. It's really difficult for me to say. But please respect the request of the marshals. I know they asked you to respect that. All 40 of you, or however many of you were up there, we're not going to get the chance to speak anyways. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so.
We don't use the word normal, it implies abnormal, which we also don't use.
Hold on. So we are going to put up the link for online voting. We're going to leave that.
Can I appeal that decision?
It's just a recommendation. The chair.
Okay.
And the chair.
Can I appeal the chair's decision though?
I don't even remember what the decision was.
To vote online, like to move it online. I think we should all decide to do that.
You don't want the online vote.
Oh, until tomorrow. All right, never mind. Just withdrawn.
Okay. Again, please just think twice before you start making procedural motions. It will make things go way faster and easier and less painful. Okay.
Sounds like you just need some closure and maybe some professional help.
Sorry, I'm locked out in a DDoS attack. Complaint from Bitly or from OpaVote, and I haven't even been able to vote on the last one.
Okay.
I'm not sure that we'll have that resolved in an hour.
Can you go to the tech table to receive help? Okay, what is yours? Sales? Okay, so.
Point of clarification, please. Yeah, thank you. Or information, one of the two. Either way, maybe it's also a point of personal privilege. Some of us came from very far away. We're here to vote on stuff. So what are we going to do about all of the rest of the stuff that we have to vote on? Because some of us have planes to catch tomorrow, and we can't just reschedule that, and some of us don't have money to, add on to that. So what are we proposing to do?
Yes. Point of personal privilege, some of us have abilities that do not allow us to stay in here for hours on end debating these resolutions. We need some sort of a break. We need to call it a day because some of us need time to recharge. We cannot go on like this forever. I am one of them. This is what we were talking about earlier with the lack of accessibility in DSA. We need to take these into consideration, people.
Could you imagine doing this forever?
Somebody needs a nap.
On behalf of disabled people and as a disabled person,
You're welcome to keep leaving, by the way. You don't have to listen to me. It's not like...
But you should.
I can't speak for every single person here with an invisible disability, but I know I personally have a disability where my joints dislocate, and it hurts. And I've been sitting in that chair for so many hours listening to people argue about procedure. It's really frustrating. I get it, all right? And I know we need more time. We were never gonna have enough time, but please, for the love of God, stop extending this shit on us. It hurts, and I need to lay down. And I'm not the only one, I'm sure. And I understand your frustration, but like, please just, could you not?
Yes, okay. Okay. Thank you. So democracy takes...
I thought being a victim would solve all my problems.
Look, everybody, I know we all feel our hands are tied, but the fact is, we can do something about this.
You have the courage to speak the truth, to do what is right, and to fight for what you believe, and keep doing it.